These are important days for our church, unusual days to be sure. Most of us are not accustomed to coming to church on Sunday morning and seeing a bunch of empty seats. You know, in this early service, we're sort of learning how most churches live all the time. And these are unusual days, and I want us to come out of them in December as spiritual as we were when we went in them, or more so. And I'm going to do the best I can to bring messages that'll help me, and if crooked as I am, if they help me, maybe they'll help you. It took me a long time to learn what I'm going to talk about this morning. I didn't learn it for many, many years. When I was a kid, I was a little guy, and I was quiet. But I was a sort of a scrapping kind of a kid. I mean, I got in my share of the fights at school. I lost more than my share of them, but I got in my share. They used to pick on me all the time because they knew I'd scrap back. I played tackle on a football team, and everybody else weighed 150, and I weighed 90 because they knew I was willing to get my nose busted and my nose bleed. You don't look like, you can't see them all. I got a scar right here on my face where I got hit, and I got several stitches up here in my eyebrow. And Mother will tell you, I was on the ball field all the time. Everybody wanted to beat me up, and so I got tired of getting beat up. So I got me a brick, just a big brick, and I made notches around the middle of it, and got me a rope and put the rope around the notches so the rope would hold onto the brick. And I carried it everywhere I went. I called it the equalizer because it sort of gave me a chance in a fight. In fact, I was undefeated after I got that brick. And when I became a teenager, I was a lot the same way. I didn't grow up till I was 17. During my 17th year, I grew from 93 pounds to 135 pounds after I was 17. And I was the kind of fellow that argued. In fact, I quit pitching softball. I used to be a semi-professional softball pitcher. I quit pitching softball because I couldn't get along with umpires. We just did not see eye to eye. I kept insisting we'd hire umpires that weren't blind, but they kept hiring blind umpires. And you've heard me tell about the time when I was pitching my last softball game. I was a pastor of a church, and somebody heard that I had been a softball pitcher, and so in the Marshall, Texas, in the City League, the T&P Railway Eagles came and said, "We understand you're a pitcher." And I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, we don't have much pitcher. We'd like you to pitch for us." Well, I pitched 2 or 3 games. First game, pitched a no-hitter. The second game, we were tied 1-1. Going into the last inning, and the umpire called a horrible play. And their first baseman, a big fellow, left-handed fellow, called me a name, and I said, "I'll get you. I'll get you." I said, "Next time you get up, I'll get you." Well, fate would have it that the first fellow up in the next inning was his first baseman. Well, I could throw a softball. In fact, I still can. I can throw a softball harder than I can throw underhand than I can throw overhanded. And I believe I can throw one as hard underhanded as you can throw one overhanded. And so I aimed at the guy's head. Reverend Hyles, pastor of a church in town, I aimed at the guy's head. And I didn't aim to put him in a hospital. I aimed to send him non-stop to the other destination. And so he ducked and hit the bat. The ball hit his bat instead of his head. And the ball dribbled, as fate would have it, down the first baseline. Well, I had to field the ball. So I wasn't interested in fielding the ball. I was interested in fielding him. And he wasn't interested in making it to first base. He was interested in getting me to the last base. And so we collided. And I put my glove on the pitcher's mound, and that's the last game I ever pitched. I love it. I loved it. That's the last game I ever pitched. What I'm trying to say is, I sort of always had a temper. Now it's all gone, of course. But I thank God that I've been delivered. And I don't know what you're laughing about, but it's all gone. But then when I became a preacher, nobody ever taught me the Scripture, pray for those that despitefully use you. Nobody ever reminded me the Scripture, bless those that curse you. Nobody ever taught me to love those that hate you. I followed the philosophy in the early years of my ministry, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And through these lips, I'm sorry to say, have passed far too many words of criticism. And into this heart, I'm sad to say, there has been far too much bitterness. But I found a scripture one time, and I'd like to tell you what changed my life along this line. And I mean this. I do not have, and God knows this is true, I have a lot of shortcomings. But I do not have, and neither have I had, in over 13 years, any bitterness toward anybody. You say, have you gotten mad during those 13 years? Yes, I have. But I have not harbored in 13 years bitterness or animosity. I have not let bitterness dwell in my heart or live in my heart in these years. The scripture that turned me around was the one that was the closing one of our scripture reading a while ago. The Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. When he prayed for his friends. Let me share with you the thinking of my own heart as we talked this morning about it. All of us know the story of Job. He was a good man. The Lord bragged on him one time to the devil and said, "If you considered my servant Job, nobody like him in all the world." And Job said, "Sure, anybody'd live right if they had all that Job has." The devil said, "Anybody'd live right if they had all that Job has." Why, said the devil to the Lord, "Job has 700 sheep, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 female donkeys, 500 yoke of oxen. He has 10 children. They're all healthy. He's one of the richest men in the whole world. Who wouldn't serve you? Let me go down and take his possessions. You'll find out what kind of Christian he is." And the Lord said, "Okay, just don't touch his body and take his possessions." You recall one day a servant came to Job and said, the Sabaeans came and took all of your oxen and donkeys. They're all gone. 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she donkeys. They're all gone. And soon another servant came and said, a fire came and destroyed all of your 7,000 sheep. Soon another servant came and said, the Chaldeans came and took your 3,000 camels. Now bear in mind, can you imagine how much 7,000 sheep would be worth? And 3,000 camels? And 500 yoke of oxen? And that 500 yoke of oxen today would be like owning 500 new John Deere tractors. And then some. And also owning the factory for making John Deere factories when you got 500 yoke of oxen. Now, what Job do? Well, somebody else came and said, Job said a tornado came. Said, your children were having a family reunion, all got together and having a party, and a tornado came, a great wind came, and every child you have is killed. And then, that isn't all. The devil finally persuaded God to allow him to come and afflict Job's body. The Bible says that Job had boils all over his body. From the crown of his head to the sole of his feet, every spot on Job had a running boil. He had what we call the disease of elephantiasis. It was a form of leprosy that caused his entire body to be covered with boils and running corruption all over his body. That isn't all. Job went out, because he was in such pain, he went out to the garbage dump of the city, out the edge of town. And in the coals and ashes of the garbage dump, he sat down. he got a piece of metal, and he scraped the corruption, the corruption off his sores. And you've hurt so bad that if you scratch it, it'll hurt, but it'll make it feel better. And Job got this piece of metal and scraped his body, all over his body, because he was in such pain and such suffering and corruption and so forth. That isn't all. His wife came, looked at him, and said to herself, what a pitiful looking wretch he is. She said, your camels are gone, your oxen are gone, your sheep are gone, your donkeys are gone, your wealth is gone, your health is gone. She said, why don't you just curse God and die? And there sits Job in the ash heap. But that isn't all.